What's up, guys? Thanks for joining another episode of Cars, Bikes, and Coffee. I am Kurt, and we are working on a 92 Nissan 300ZX Turbo, and this is everything wrong with it. Stay tuned. We are on the side of the garage, and yes, it's super bright, so I'm wearing sunglasses, but this is everything wrong with my 1992 Nissan 300ZX Turbo. And beyond the paint, the clear coat's gone. There's some scratches and there's some rust. So let's look at the rust first. On the hatch, this had the turbo spoiler, and of course that just soaked up the rain and moisture and caused a ton of rust all the way throughout and on the sides. And I think the big thing here, what I want to do is possibly, instead of fixing like I talked on the last video, is actually just finding another hatch, because I'm going to need to find a new spoiler, and at that point I might as well. So that's the first thing that needs to happen. Tail lights, they're cracked, especially the centerpiece is cracked and the left side is cracked, and there's a crack in here somewhere. Need to get at least some nicer tail lights for that. All of the side trims, have all the sun damage, and even the center piece of the T-tops is gone. You can see they look chrome, but the Kurama kit, I think I'm gonna have to just splurge for. I think it's currently at $600. Sold the fiberglass centerpiece and actually bought the stock one. I think that looks much better. So we got that. And as well, we need new tires. These tires were brand new before this was parked, and there are no miles on them, but they are 10 years past, so they are old. As far as looking at the brakes, these are AP Racing brakes, and what I'm gonna have done is resurface the rotors and then clean up and paint and get these looking new again. So that's on the brake, and the same for the rear. They're Nissan stock rear. Just get those resurfaced and then put a little bit of paint on the calipers. So the next thing I want to do is go ahead and look underneath the car. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, besides the cleanup, everything under here looks pretty good. We've got stainless steel exhaust, so we need to clean that up. Gonna have to take a look at the union there on the drive shaft. And then of course we're gonna change the fluids on the diff. But everything looks pretty good, at least in good order. Maybe check the bushings on the subframe. But I think the back of the car looks pretty good. So let's go take a look at the front. All right, so we've got a dirty transmission. So I'm gonna wanna pull this and clean it up, but I'm thinking probably rear main seal, do that while we're in there. And then I'm thinking possibly an oil pan gasket replacement is gonna be needed. Just a good cleanup. Now, as far as interior goes, it has pretty decent leather seats. There's a few blemishes. This is dried and was sitting in the sun for a good 10 years. So what I want to do is have the center section replaced, and then I'm going to re-dye the discolored parts of the leather. Inside looks pretty decent. I'm going to do a few mods to the center, put in the instrument cluster, do some LED lights for the dash. I do have a broken roller on the upper end of the window, so that needs to be ordered. And as well, need to fix the back. The center package or parcel tray wasn't there. That was an amp in a big old box if you hadn't seen the previous video. But otherwise, the back is in good condition. Some of the parts I've taken out already, and I do have the cargo mat and as well the floor mats already. So let's go ahead and take a look at the engine. I am going to go ahead and do the 120,000 mile service. It was done at 130 some odd thousand miles. It has 143 now, but it's been sitting for 10 years, and that service was done 15 years ago. Let's go ahead and get started and take a look in the engine bay. So the first thing we're gonna do is just take our cap off, and then we've already pulled the underbody panels off the front piece and under the engine, so those are out. So let's go ahead and drain the coolant. Under here, we've got the petcock and we've got our pan. So we're gonna just open this up and we'll let that drain out. So now that we have the bottom of the radiator draining out, we want to get these wires out of the way and take off our upper hose. And just to make sure our pan is below, because there probably is fluid in this. And then undo our lower hose to the radiator. Now we've taken the bottom screws out of the plastic from below. So we can just take this out. Now we'll take these 210s out. All right, so we've taken the lower hose off. Now we're gonna take the overflow hose off. Set that aside. Now the radiator should come straight out. Oh yeah, that's where our problem was, right there. All right, now with the radiator out, we're gonna go ahead and take the radiator fan out. And do yourself a favor, take the fan off the clutch. That was a pain in the butt. Now we wanna take all the drive belts off. Power steering came loose a little bit, so we cut it. And get all these belts off. Obviously we're using new ones. There we go. So now what we want to do is go ahead and take the timing cover off and get this all cleared, and that way we can inspect the timing belt. All right, so we've set the transmission into 5th gear and pulled the parking brake, and we want to break the nut on the harmonic balancer. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I might need an extension bar for this breaker bar, but we'll see. All right, so with the bolt cracked a little bit and loosened, what we did put our puller on, and I'm actually using some of the bolts from the timing cover that fit with my puller because I didn't have the right bolts. So now we're gonna go ahead, pull this off. Now we just loosen up and remove our bolts. All right, so now that we have all of our bolts off, and the one thing I do want to recommend is getting a set like this, because this came in super handy in getting all of the bolts that were too rusted to grab onto. So I'll leave a link in the description for a set like this. But now that we have all the bolts off, we're going to take the lower timing cover off. So taking a look at the timing belt, it actually looks pretty good. The tensioners and the pulleys, they, you know, for just sitting, there's a little bit of surface rust, but altogether they look fine. But I'm gonna go ahead and order all the seals for the cams, new pulleys, a new water pump, and I've got a new timing gear, sprocket, and as well a front crankshaft seal, and new timing belt, of course. So we're gonna refresh and just get it all dialed in. And so that way I know that it's been done and it's been done right and to spec. So now that we know about what we're gonna do for the timing belt and the 120 service, engine bay is actually not that bad. A little bit of corrosion that I wanna clean up and make it look a lot better. New fuel filter, of course. There's a couple seals for the hood switch and the hood prop, and of course new battery, and then as well a new cowl I need to order. But just go through this and just clean it up really, and then put some miles in driving it and just see how it goes. And of course we're going to change the oil, get that clean, and just clean this whole engine bay up. Now as far as other things to fix, this headlight is actually cracked right here. So we're going to see about pulling out the headlight and repairing it using some plastic weld. And other than that, I think that's the 300ZX. All right, so that's the 300ZX and everything that at least we know right now what's wrong with it. And so looking forward to getting all of that fixed, cleaned up, and restored so we can get it out on the road and enjoy it and bring you along for the ride. And definitely, if you haven't subscribed, consider doing so. It really helps us out. But thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.